My name is Brian. I race E36 in GTS2 for NASA. It's E36 M3. It's a 95 model, but it's got a 96 engine in it. Most of the car is actually not original. Everything's been replaced apart from the actual body of the car. And then all the side panels have been replaced. Transmission, engine, gearbox, suspension is all new. So the car, when I bought it, and I hope the person I bought it from is not watching, I bought it mint. It was a classic. It was amazing condition, and the guy I bought it from said, please just keep it in the condition that it's currently in. It was bone stock. It's worth a lot more than it is now if I kept it bone stock, and I basically just tore it down. Which is probably not the best thing to do, but I knew I was getting a car that didn't have rust. It was really good shape, so you know, the starting point, the chassis point, I knew was solid, which is what I wanted. But it was a really nice looking car at one point. So High Speed completely rebuilt the car. High Speed have replaced the engine. I blew the engine 3 times. Most of it was just misshifting. They've replaced the gearbox. They've also built the cage, which was, you know, I shopped around a lot for like one of the best cage builders around, and High Speed are up there. This cage, I've been in a few issues with it, and it's held up amazingly well. They've also built the suspension for me, and they've, you know, support me at the track and do all the alignment depending on what the track is. So that's hugely helpful. At the end of the day, we're all running the same type of car, so the only edge we have is in suspension and in aero. And High Speed, you know, they've been around for a long time. They found a combination that works, and then they tune it and tweak it depending on your driving style and how you drive. Every time I go on track, I learn something new every single time. So for me, it's just getting more experience, finding out where my weaknesses are and how to not develop bad habits where my weaknesses are, but try and recognize the bad habits and the weakness and build on that. And you know, I do that by asking High Speed for a lot of advice, for other racers for advice, by following different cars, different lines, and just trying to, you know, build my experience racing. My dad was a Formula 1 racing driver. He was racing in like a Mercedes cigar sausage car with Graham Hill in the late 60s. So I've always been around that craziness. He used to take me to the track. I remember when I was 4, he was doing some marshalling, and I would hold his hand. And in those days, there wasn't a guardrail. You're literally on the grass where the cars are going by, and that was considered safe in those days. So I vividly remember that, thinking maybe we shouldn't be here, Dad. But he seemed pretty fine being there. So it was always around me. I never had an opportunity to start racing, just with family and commitments. It's a huge amount of commitment and a huge amount of time. So now my family's a bit older, I can devote my time to a bit more racing. My plans for next year are to develop as a driver, I'd say. I think the car is where it needs to be right now. We can tweak it a little bit, but it's really just to develop my racing skill and get more experience there for 2020.